Okay, and we are live.
Oh, that's stressful. What if I say something horribly inappropriate?
It's gonna be there forever. Internet never forgets.
Internet never forgets. How have you been?
Oh, good here. How are you doing? It's so early in the morning.
It's early in the morning, but it's not that early in the morning. It's 7 a.m. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as like 3 a.m.
Well, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough.
What's it like over in the beautiful La Paz in Bolivia at the moment? How's the weather?
Oh, it's really nice. It's like sunny and warm, but we're so close to the sun, so that means I need like 5 layers of sunscreen before I can actually leave the house. So yeah, but it's great.
That's
I'd
kind of
rather.
nice though, because we've had like a polar blast this week. So we've had like ice and hail and rain and snow and sleet. And I'm like, it's supposed to be coming into summer.
This is completely the opposite of what I expected New Zealand to be.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's
never
essentially
ending
just
summer.
it's essentially just like an Arctic nation covered in snow. No, it's not. It's actually really lovely up north. It's tropical. North. It's closer to Australia at the top of the North Island. Look, most of it's cold. I was trying to pull some warmth out of somewhere in the island. All right. Anywho, okay. Oh, good. Oh, we've already got a good morning hi from. I hope I said the name correctly. Upstate New York. What's upstate New York's weather like? And Chandrima. We also got a hello from a Chandrina, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's always like so difficult with the names because sometimes the names are a little bit different, and it's so embarrassing when you mispronounce them.
Tell
So
me
we do
one person that's ever
apologize.
pronounced my surname correctly.
Right, yeah. I'm not gonna say it because I don't even think I know how I know how to pronounce it correctly. Oh,
Well,
now
because
you cold weather. Hi,
oh,
Brenda. Hi,
oh, Brenda and
Leilani.
I
I'm
I well, you know what? We could spend all day doing like name pronunciation roulette.
yeah, but it's awesome. Like you guys are from all over the place.
That is pretty cool. I I don't think we've ever had a live where we've had such a big, wide variety of people from all over the world. South Dakota. Oh, The Hague. Oh my God, I just did a paper on the HCCH, which is the international law of from The Hague. It was unbelievably boring, but really interesting. Really interesting.
So kind of both. So hey, Brenda, Ashley, Trish. Oh my God, thank you so much for joining us, guys.
I kind of feel like a superstar now.
Well, maybe yes, a little bit.
Maybe a little bit. Anyway, so should we get started? Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Right. Um. Oh,
Because it's live, I think that'll
there's
be
no
challenging, but
title.
we will save it, and the saved version will have captions. I'll actually
So, but
post
thank
in
you
the
for
comments.
joining, Ashley. That's amazing. The replay definitely will have the captions, so it would be easier.
Captions, caption. I'm just typing the comment captions. The replay.
All right. So,
Will
um, okay, so while you're doing that, I'll do a little like introductions because I think we have people coming from both of our sides. So maybe like people who came with you. Wait, why did you? How did you comment from my account?
I don't know. Or maybe because it's on, maybe she's commented on your account. So I've replied from you. Oh,
Okay. Okay.
okay.
That's
So we know
interesting.
now we know she's watching your video, not my video.
Oh, but there are both. There are both yours and
I
mine.
know. All right.
Anyway,
Okay.
back to it. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Masha, and I'm kind of a creative person behind Masha Plans. So, there's a lot of things. I have like an Instagram and a YouTube channel, obviously, and a blog where basically I'm talking about bullet journaling and creativity, on like how to start a bullet journal, how to make it a success. And also, I really like exploring like the creative part of bullet journaling because that's something I really enjoy, and I think it's kind of a useful thing others can enjoy as well. So I also have like tons of different courses and ebooks and printables. So basically, my main goal with the whole Masha Plans thing is to kind of help you discover the bullet journal system and just succeed in it, and just, change your life with it. Because I started mine in 2018, and since then until now, like, it helped me to absolutely transform my life. And it was just like, wow, a great experience, and have never had anything else to help me that much. So that kind of inspired me to share more and to kind of help others to make this process a little bit easier. So that's me. It's your turn.
So hi, my name is Nicola, and I am from My Inner Creative. And I feel like you and I have both been in the BuJo community for what, a century, it feels like.
It feels that way.
Feels that way. I've always been into planning and organizing, etc. I found photos of me from like 2000 and something where I had like a little planner and stickers in my planner already, and I was just like, whoa, I need to share that, because I've always had like a pretty consistent system, which aligned quite closely to bullet journaling. So when bullet journaling became super popular, I was like, oh, this is something I can totally clamber on board with, only because it had already aligned to kind of the productivity tools that I was already using. I think my blog specifically, Marsha's is all about how to get started and be really successful for it. Mine's on the other end of that, where I'm like, okay, let's find, once you've got that, and once you are set in your themes and you've got a way that you like to be productive, come over to me and find all the themes, find all the inspiration, and keep that motivation going, keep that kind of momentum going with your journal and with your productivity as well. So I focus quite a bit on kind of that consistency and motivation. Oh, geez. I feel like whenever you give like I don't know about you, Masha, but when people ask you, so what do you do? And I'm like,
I know. It's the most difficult question, because like it's also like, how long do you have, but also like, nothing special. I don't know, just like I'm writing posts online. So
I just do blogging.
yeah, but like when you say blogging, it's not necessary. Like, people have a different image compared to what we actually do.
Yes. I feel like people, when they hear that you are a blogger, they're just like, oh my God, that's not even a real thing.
Well, anyways, let's go back to our topic, because people are here for bullet journaling, not about our
Our blogging.
our blogging struggles.
All right. So our main reason that we're here today is both Masha and I agree that we think at some point you're going to quit bullet journaling. And we want to talk about why, and some of the reasons to avoid that, and some of the ways that we can overcome that. And yeah, Masha?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And just wanted to let you know that if during the live sometime you have some questions, just drop them in the comments and we'll be happy to answer all of them. But yeah, so I can tell you from myself that I had several instances in my bullet journal experience where I kind of quit it for a bit. Not like fully quit, but like I had my own struggles. But I feel like for me, it's more like I have a very solid base and I know exactly why I want to do it. So like even when I had struggles, I knew I would have to overcome them and and go back to the system because it is something that helps me a lot. But I feel like a lot of people don't have this like very solid base. So once these first difficulties arise, it's pretty normal that a lot of people just give up with it. So I guess we kind of wanted to talk about several of these, I don't know, like milestone, like big things that are usually a cause on why people having difficulties and essentially quit bullet journaling.
Yes, agree with that. And I think, you're really right with that solid foundation, right? You see all these beautiful bullet journal spreads online, and then you do a bit of a Google and you start bullet journaling, and you kind of you just can't keep that momentum going because you don't understand kind of the background to it. And yeah, you've read a couple of blog posts on how to get started, or you've seen someone's video on how to get started, but you haven't tailored it to you. And I think that's kind of our first milestone is like over high expectations. And I saw that Karen Payne just below has commented, I wonder if people quit because they have too high expectations or make it too complicated. And I think that just kind of segues straight into that very first issue, which is unrealistic expectations.
For sure, because once you go online and you see and you do kind of like a very, what would be the word for that? Like not a deep search, but where it's just like very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Surface level search.
Surface level, yes. So once you look at it at a surface level, you have kind of your own vision on what it is and how to do it. But that surface level, it's kind of not the way it actually is. So the surface level will be like, oh yeah, you like you use like pretty stationery and stickers and you doodle and you make
and habit trackers and
yes, and you're like, oh yeah, it's so cute. But like that's it's very, very surface. And that's something that you can start and you can be like very excited to do it. Because obviously everything new is very exciting to get started with. But as with every new habit, unless you have a deeper understanding on like how to use the system, how to customize it, how to make it help you with your exact needs, unless you have that, you're just gonna drop it. That's just the way it is. Because new habits are always so difficult to establish. Like you have to have a solid understanding on how to do it and why you're doing it. Because otherwise, I mean, I had thousands of planners before bullet journaling because I wanted those cute planners with cute stickers and buy all these cute pens. But that was the surface level and it never went deeper, and I quit it within a month. And yeah, so there's kind of two first issues, right? We kind of touched on it a little bit, is the high expectations and the idea that things have to be complicated. I feel like for high expectations, because a lot of people are talking on how bullet journaling helped them and changed their life. But so people get those journals and start them in hope of like having this life-changing experience. But so they have those super high expectations, but they kind of don't really know what else people put into it to achieve those high expectations, because bullet journal is not really like a magic pill that's going to fix everything. I don't know what you think.
Well, I don't know if you've seen that. Have you seen that reel at the moment where there's the sound on the reel that goes, "You better fix my life, you little shit."
Yes, yes.
And I was like, this is exactly what I'm seeing people imagine when they get their first notebook and they're like, "You better fix my life." And you know what? It's not, unless you understand the basics and unless you have a vision or a plan as to what you want to achieve with your, your journaling. Is it, reflective? Is it productivity? Is it, tracking something? Let's say you've got a health issue and you need to track something so that at the end of, let's say, a month and a half, that you've got an outcome there. So unless you're tracking those outcomes, you kind of throwing things in the dark and hoping for the best. And that's, again, there's that overcomplicated, unrealistic expectation that, okay, I've just spent 4 hours drawing this incredible 1 month spread that I'm not even going to use, and it's frustrating to see how quickly people get sucked into that as well. And I saw we just got a comment through from Allegro, and it says, "So true. I'm trying to figure out writing utensils specifically right now. There are so many recommendations on pens and markers and paint pens and highlighters and. What are they all for?" I think we'll save that question for the end, but it's also a really good kind of commentary for now. Is you go online and then you see, like as Masha says, you see all these surface level things with beautiful pens and ink and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, no. Just start with the basics first and see how you like it, customize it, and then kind of go from there, versus buy all the things, make all the pages, do all the habits, etc. So yeah, I think we overcomplicate things too much. I think we want to overcomplicate things too much because it gives us kind of like a sense of, I'm doing something about this productivity in my heart.
I always say my best tip for this is always like find your why. So like don't start a journal just because you want to have a reason to buy all those cute stationery items. Like know exactly your why. I'll give you an example of when I started in 2018. My life kind of was like all over the place, and I was kind of a little bit stuck in life. Like I didn't really go anywhere. Like I had a good life, but it kind of was just like the same for quite a long time. So when I started bullet journaling, I was like, okay, so I want to figure out how I can get out of this like one place and start doing something that I like more and start bringing change into my life, and just generally start like getting organized. Because at a certain point I realized that I just didn't know what I did with my day. Like if somebody would ask, what did you do yesterday? I would be like, I have no idea. I don't know. It's just, I don't know. And then like, I feel like when I didn't know what I did, it felt like the day was wasted. And then I was like my whole life is being wasted because I have no idea what I'm doing and where I'm going. So my obvious why with my bullet journal was that I want to be able to set goals, to kind of draw a path for myself and then follow through. So that way, even when I had the moments when I was like, oh, Jesus, no more. I was like, yeah, maybe I need a break, but I have to go back to it. And every time I took a break, I was like, it's happening again. Like, what am I doing with my life? What's happening? I have no idea. So like I knew exactly why I have to do it. So even when I faced some some of those like difficulties or challenges, I was like, well, it's fine. Let's work through this so we can, continue using it and continue like figuring out how to make it work for my why. So that's kind of like my golden tip every time. Before you start your bullet journal, think of your why. It's going to help you pick the right supplies. It's going to help you pick the right pages. Like I don't know.
I totally agree. Once you've got that why, my top tip then is always start off, don't get all the fancy schmancy stuff. Just start off with a blank sheet of paper and a pen and see what works for you for a little while. Draw it out in pencil, work out what it is that meets kind of the necessities of your why, and then kind of go from there, rather than leaping face forward into a 47-line habit tracker of habits that you've never tracked a day in your life. Like, oh my God, I'm suddenly tracking my sleep. No, my phone does that. Don't need to do that. Or, oh, I'm suddenly tracking all of the bottles of water that I've been drinking. Like, you've never done that before. Is there a need for you to do that right now? Probably not. Focus on those kind of core fundamentals first, and just essentially use a piece of paper and a pencil. And there is nothing wrong with using lined paper or blank paper until you work out what it is that you feel comfortable with. And once you feel kind of comfortable with it, then move over to things that kind of bring you or spark a little bit more joy. And that's where you kind of start going into that space of like, oh, I now have a favorite pen, or oh, I now have a favorite notebook that allows me kind of the landscape to be a little bit more creative.
I feel like that's a really good segue to talk about supplies. Because I think it's like the first thing you do when you start bullet journaling. You go and you buy like all the stationery in the world.
Oh,
I know I did that. And you tell me, but most of the stuff I bought when I started my first bullet journal, I don't use. I've never really used.
Okay, so now I'm a little bit on the other end of that scale. I've always loved stationery. When it was like going back to school time, I would sit there with like the stationery list and I would like circle like all the highlighters, and I would be like, yes, please. I was so ready, but my mother never bought me any of this stationery. She only ever really got me the biro pen and like a highlighter. And so I've always been really into stationery. And then when I like kind of got into work, I started doing a lot more planning. So it was more, it was more like a Filofax. I don't know if you remember Filofax from about 1,000 years ago. That's how old I am now. It's like a Filofax. So I would put stickers in my Filofax and I would highlight, and I would do like little cute sticky notes. But I've always had a very specific productivity system as well, very specific. So I've never had an issue with organization and productivity. My issue has always been bringing creativity into that, because I get very, I want to say regimented in the way that I plan things out. And, this kind of goes back to that comment around perfectionism. And I know we'll come to that a little bit later, but very specific about how I like my plans to be. Doesn't mean I'm inflexible. It just means I like my plans in a specific way. And so bringing creativity into that was a challenge for me. So when I found kind of the bullet journal method and how it kind of tied into my own productivity strategy, that's when I was like, actually, if I get one of these awesome dot notebooks, I give myself the opportunity to have more space, to be a little bit more creative with how I define that productivity. And it means that I can make it bright and cheerful and happy and stickers and pens. And I still use a lot of the stuff, but some of the stuff. I've got too much stuff, but I think I use it. I once saw the original method on random YouTube recommendation, and I thought it was something that could actually work for me. There we go. Did it work for you, Allegra?
Yeah, that's that's the thing, because I think Nicola and me both, we kind of love this creative aspect of bullet journaling. So obviously, like, I talk a lot about it. My pages are full of like decorative elements and doodles and stuff like that. But that's just the way we like doing things. Like, I always say that there is no right way to bullet journal. If you wanna, I think like Isabel Hoops, because she has those like
Oh,
basically like paintings in her bullet journal.
hold on. Let me see if I can screen share on this.
4 hours.
I wonder. Oh my God, I can do a screen share. Hold on. I'll pull her up on Instagram. Hold on.
Right. So like if you want to spend that much time on your bullet journal to just draw like one illustration, feel free to. If you want to go minimalistic and just use like one pen and one highlighter, feel free to. It's kind of a very common misconception when people do the research on bullet journaling. They see all those like super creative, very artistic bullet journals, so they feel like, oh my God, that's how it has to be done. Like,
look at this realism. Who's doing that in their bullet journal other than Isabel?
But that's the thing, like, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Like, for a lot of people, being creative in their bullet journal is kind of like their outlet, their way to practice their art, and that's fine, but it's not a must have. You can go to like the bare basics, just use one pen for everything, no problem. And I think it's something that really keeps a lot of people away from bullet journaling, because they see all those creative artistic spreads and they feel like, oh my God, no way, I cannot do that. So they don't even give bullet journaling a try. But yeah, you definitely should, because it's not a must. It's kind of like something people enjoy doing, but not necessarily what you have to do.
I would say like these two are probably close to like minimal journaling, right? Keeping it down to the basics.
Right, yeah.
These, I'd say these are a little bit more creative. Yeah, they're minimal, but they're still really creative with the art and the highlighters and etc. But I think these over here are more aligned to, hey, let's keep it super basic. Here's essentially a calendar. Let's actually open that up. Here's essentially calendar, and here's a line a day. I'm not quite sure. I think that's German, and I'm guessing that says line a day. Do you speak German?
No, I don't.
German is not the language that I got.
It's not the easy one for sure.
That's not the easy one. So I think you're totally right. It's great to look at those, and it's great to draw inspiration from those, but is it worth quitting or stressing yourself out making your notebook look like that? No.
But yeah, so Allegra was saying that she needs to figure out how to add some color simply and affordably. So I feel like that's also an important thing, because you see those artists using those like really expensive pens and markers, and they're great. Like, I have some of those, they're really amazing, but there are definitely more budget alternatives to all of this. And in fact, usually my personal tip is to start with kind of cheaper supplies, because I feel like when you get things started, you don't really know what your style is going to be, what kind of things you're going to love using. So it kind of like, when I started my bullet journal, I had this like a little Japanese shop next door, and I went and I spent too much money on washi tape. And I never use washi. Like, only in the last probably year, maybe 2 years, I kind of started adding some washi tape to my pages. But I didn't need it back then. I saw those beautiful pages online and I was like, oh my God, washi tape, so awesome. I bought all of it and I was like, well, how do I use it? What do I do with it? I don't actually like it. It's not really my style once I start doing it. So I feel like it's very important to kind of start with like a cheaper supplies and then go like step by step. Like don't just buy like everything at once, because chances are it might not be something you actually like ultimately, and not something that fits your style. I don't know. Did you ever have that kind of experience when you're just like, oh my God, I want it, but it's really not your
Oh,
thing?
I have that all the time. Now that I'm an adult and I can buy things without your parents telling you you're not allowed to, it's not ideal.
It's a dangerous path.
So bad. And I think I just this morning before this, I released a video of having like a tour through my pen cart. Sorry, but I have way too many pens in my pen cart, and yes, I use some of them, sure. But if you were to say, oh my goodness, there's a tsunami coming, which is very prevalent in this, in the Pacific, you've got a tsunami coming, grab what you need. To be honest with you, I would probably grab my handbag and run, because my handbag has got like a little mini pack of pens, like the stuff that I use all the time. It has like one highlighter, it has like a tiny little roll of washi tape, and it has these new flags, like vellum flags that I don't know how to say that word. Just to highlight, neither Masha and I have English as a first language, just as an FYI. Just FYI. So some of our English words are not great, and some of our English pronunciation is not great, but that's okay. So anyway, whatever those are.
Accents, our own accents, that's what it is.
You know what? It's cool. But I have no idea. Like, I don't know how to say that word, but the vellum, they're like see-through paper, and they're like sticky notes, but with see-through on them. I love them. Love them. Anyway, if you were to tell me that that's all I could take with me, I would be totally happy. I don't need all of the things. I like having all of the things, but I don't need all of the things. And the stuff that I have just in my back, like in my bag, ready to go, that's what I'm grabbing.
So I was trying to type it because I see like a lot of people are talking like washi tape and Crayola super tips. So just wanted to mention that yes, Crayola super tips are amazing.
They're a great starter.
They are super affordable. I think they have I think the biggest set has like 150 colors.
Yes.
And you can actually do brush lettering with them if you want to.
And you can highlight, and you can draw.
And you can do them for coloring. So that's definitely my top recommended supply for beginners. If you just want to try out some color but don't want to spend too much money of it, Crayola Super Tips are so multi-use.
I'd say the other one that I would recommend is the if you're thinking of practicing brush lettering and you want to kind of go mid-range versus, hey, I don't want the super cheap one that's going to dry out real quick, but you also don't want to go super expensive, just grab one of the Tombow Fudonosuke with the medium tip, not a hard tip, not a soft tip, kind of the middle tip, because that gets you practicing as well. And if that's something that you're adding to your daily journaling practice, that's one that I would have, because then it's nice and black, it's a bright, nice dark black color in the ink. And also it's pretty waterproof if you're going to be trying watercolors as well. Again, go cheap watercolors. You don't need expensive watercolors because you can't use too much water in most notebooks. So, using watercolor has to be really sparing.
Well, I feel like we can kind of move along to the next point that I think is really important. And I think it's one of the biggest reasons why people are quitting their bullet journal or don't even start it, is perfectionism.
Oof. Yeah. What's interesting about perfectionism is I see so many posts on, the Facebook groups and everywhere. Oh, I've just started my notebook and I hate how it's turned out. Should I start a new one? I see that so often and I'm just like, oh, that hurts my heart, because I'm like, dude, you don't have to restart from scratch. Kind of accept that you don't love that first part of it, and let's change it and make it better. Use it as a lesson and keep it in your notebook as a lesson, or keep it in your notebook as kind of a guide to say, hey, this is what I like, or this is, yeah, I don't know. That's such a hard one for me because I'm a natural perfectionist. So it's hard because I've been there where I'm like, oh, this sucks. I don't ever want to look at this again.
I know, but I think it's very important. The idea is your first page in your bullet journal is probably going to be the ugliest page you have in the entire journal. Like, I've been struggling with that a lot myself. And at a certain point, it's just what it is. Because the more you use your journal, the more you try different creative things and blah, 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 the better you get. So it's obvious that at the beginning with the first page, it's kind of so-so, but then, you keep going and you keep getting better. It's just very difficult. I think it's just, it's not even as much as like that people are perfectionists, but in a way, I think also because like as an adult, we kind of not really used at being bad at stuff. Because like when you're a kid and you start doing something and you're really bad at it, you're just like, oh, that's fine, like I'll get better. But like as an adult, it's very difficult to start something and be really bad at it. But I think you just have to keep in mind that it's temporary. You'll get better when, the more you practice, the better you get. And if you just quit and you start doing the new journal and then the new journal, you'll never get better. That's the point. So it's very difficult finding the perfectionists. Like, for sure, I've been struggling with that myself because I was like, oh yeah, I'm like a creative person and I have like all the stickers and all the stationery, and everyone is always saying like, oh, I do things so cute. I'm gonna just like start and it's gonna be like the best bullet journal in the world. And like, Jesus Christ, my first
It
journal.
looks like a shit show.
Absolutely. I don't actually, I would show you, but my first journal, because I moved countries. So my first journal now is like with my parents. Could I send it there for storage? Because I'm like, I never want to look at it. But like, Nicola, do you have any
I
yes.
have my very first bullet journal. It's not even in a bullet journal. It's in a, you're gonna love this. It has the original little key in it. So this would have been
good though.
This would have been in October maybe 2016. So you've got all the, like before bullet journal really took off. Yeah, it's literally just like a hot mess of papers in like a giant messy, because I've got naturally messy handwriting, which is not great for someone who wants things to look really pretty online. Here we go. You want it to look really pretty and you want it to feel really good, but realistically, I've got really messy handwriting. If you want neat handwriting, go check out our beautiful friend, Little Miss Rose. Her handwriting is unbelievable. It's so beautiful. It looks like she's typed it on her computer, but no, it's her handwriting. It drives me crazy because then I compare, right? Then I'm like, why is my handwriting so bad? Why is it so bad? But actually, you know what? It's not bad. It's just my handwriting. My brush letterings look at least a little bit better, but I've always been using kind of stickers and doodles and like creativity stuff in mine. So yeah, so that's from like 1,000 years ago, feels like it now.
But do you have some tips on how you can kind of make it better, let's say?
You know what? That is obviously not better. But I think, you know, those first couple of months that I used that particular style, it kind of gave me really good insight into what I did like and what I didn't like. And I found that with too much blank space, I ended up with the messy handwriting and the bit, because I use up all my space for handwriting and notes. And then I discovered that when I give myself space for my to-do list and space to be messy, that kind of made it a little bit neater. So you can see like a little bit of progression into 2019, where I've actually given myself the space to kind of write things down. So I've given myself space to write notes, but I've also given myself space to write my to-do list. So it's far less messy than it was, but it still kind of is, it's kind of still my style and still my kind of my feel. So giving myself enough space for notes, but also then having my to-do list and things that I need to get done. So kind of a combination of the two, but that took time. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a lot of trial and error, and I had to just accept that some of those pages were going to be really ugly, or I felt like they were really ugly. But, you know, looking back on them now, I'm like, actually, they were a really good indication of kind of the route that I wanted to go into.
Right. Well, I feel like there are certain things you can do to kind of help you along with this journey. So just like, wait, who said that? T-Bean7, she mentioned that she uses pencil first, and that's definitely one of my like top tips. You don't even have to draw like the entire page, but just some main elements to make sure that like your daily boxes are even or something. You know, just doing some kind of a sketch of your spread would really help. Another thing that helped me a lot is to kind of like swatch the colors before putting them on paper, because I'm still not that good at like matching colors. So it helps me a lot to just swatch them on the paper and then be like, okay, this one and that one would go. So let's use those. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Sorry, I just saw the Chris's comment, and when she said that,
oh.
"Hi, thank you," encourage her to change the style until you find the one you like. Yeah, it's a little bit a different topic, but I feel like that's also an important thing, because depending on your why, you will need different things in your bullet journal and in different formats. So there is this like standard bullet journal format, which is just like vertical, just like the days of the week and the dates. There is like a calendar, there's like a lot of versions of each spread, and you see some more often than others. And so it's easy to feel like, oh, that's how it's done. But it's not. It's actually up to you to kind of figure out the best format for yourself. And that's kind of why I feel like my bullet journal got like really boring lately, because I found the several formats for like weeklies and monthlies that work like the best for me. So like I do the same every month, just like changing the colors and the themes. And I'm like, oh, am I like disappointing people because it's like it's all the same format?
Same.
Yeah, just like copy paste.
So I'm actually on a bullet journal break at the moment. I recently discovered a planner that I really like, and I've been using the planner instead because it's just a little bit faster for what I was needing it for, and really happy with it. It's got like I think what I really like about it as well is it's the same size as my bullet journal as well. And then it's got space in to bullet journal, but it, you know, remember I showed you earlier where I was like, as long as I've got space for notes and then I've got space for everything else, it does that for me.
Hmm.
There we go. does it for me. So that works really well for me at the moment. So I've taken a huge like bullet journal break, but I'm still keeping up my creativity in other ways at the moment because I don't want to lose that, right? I don't want to lose the capacity of kind of being able to be messy and being able to incorporate messy play into my daily environment or be creative, because I find that if I'm too structured, then I kind of miss that a lot. I don't know about you. Do you feel like if you're not being creative at some point in the day that you're just kind of like, oh?
Well, I have a lot of other things I really enjoy doing that kind of help me, which is kind of weird, but like if I work on my blog, if you like write something, that's kind of like my creative outlet for the day. But I feel like I found for myself that I use my bullet journal less if it's less creative. Like if I go for this like minimalist black and white style, no colors, just like very simple setup, I'll use it less because I'm like, it's like, it's not fun or bright or interesting. It's like, meh. So, so I end up actually using my journal less if it's less creative. I had, give me a second. So 1 month last year, I tried to do something out of the box. So I tried to use watercolors.
I'm
And
here for it.
this setup, which is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Like, what is this? I don't know.
What?
It's not that bad, but like for me, I just hated like every page.
It's definitely a rainbow. Definitely a rainbow.
I never used it. Like this page, this whole month, never used it. And like you can see, I even had to like glue together some pages because I was trying to do like a cover page. And I tried it 4 times. So I have like 4 other versions hidden because they were so bad.
But you know what? That's a great way. That's a great way to hide if you're not happy with something. You don't have to rip it out of your notebook and start again. You can just stick the pages together and move on.
For sure, yes. There are many ways you can fix any mistakes. I guess we're kind of going into this direction now and talking about fixing your mistakes.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I often find that if I make a mistake, I actually get to be more creative because I have to find a way to fix it that would still look cute. And pretty often, the pages where I had to fix something end up looking so much better. But yeah, so you can just glue pages together. If you don't want to do this permanently, you can just like use some washi tape. That's what I did. Let me see. Conveniently, I have like my old journals right here.
How
But
convenient.
so here, for example, you see like I have several pages and I just kind of I stuck some washi tape, so they're kind of hidden. You can cover it with like printable. That's one of the reasons why I really like Archer and Olive notepads, because I can just cut it off and stick it and cover the entire page. But alternatively, I think you could also just cut off not like cut off the whole page, but like cut the piece of the page from the back of your notebook and then just use that to cover it up.
Or you know what? Just put a box around it, put a sticker over it, and off you go.
For sure.
Cover it up. She'll be all right, mate. She'll be all right. Yeah, washi tape's also a really good one to hide stuff. If you're just doing it on your page, there's actually, and I'll try and dig up the link, but there's actually a washi tape with dots on it for the dot grid, and then
Oh
you
my
can just
God,
stick
how
it over
clever.
your little spot, almost like correction tape for dot grid, and then you kind of shoot, and then it's gone. Your mistake is gone. And if on black paper, just use a Sharpie, just check it out on.
I kind of really like the blackout method as well, when you just kind of black it out and then you write with a white gel pen on top of it. Like, I generally really like this effect, so I do it on purpose sometimes, but sometimes it's to fix a mistake.
Shipping on one notebook was over $50. Yeah, look, can't say that shipping is fun for anybody at the moment. Sorry for that, Allegro. I saw that Celtic Peasant mentioned that Teen Bean had commented essentially Greek to her, because she said, keep all of your grid paper cut off from Dutch doors or whatever you use, and use them to cover up. So your grid paper is the paper that's coming out of your dot notebook. So you've got a notebook with little dots on it. And when you make a Dutch door is kind of like a little flap in your notebook. You can kind of identify where, I don't actually know if I've got one in here. But it's essentially like a little flap that you can use for stuff. And if you're making a Dutch door, then kind of cut it out and keep the extra that you left over to cover up any mistakes that you have going forward. And here's just the comment in case you wanted to see what it looked like. So for everyone else that was curious. And then there's also been a couple of, there we go. So Stephanie was like, Dutch door, you lost me. So you're fine. Hopefully that explains it. So Dutch doors are just like little peekaboo doors in your notebook that you create so that you can either add extra space, or you're creating like you're defining where the month starts or the month ends. If that makes sense.
I feel like another cool idea would be like just to cut off pieces from your old notebook. I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like when my notebook is done, it's not like I use like all the pages. I always have like several pages left. So like you could just cut off those, because it's like you're not going to use those empty pages. But if you cut them off, it's useful. You're going to use them to fix mistakes in the new journal. So there you go.
Agreed. Totally agree. I'm trying to think of, like the best way I think to kind of reduce the opportunity because for me, because I'm a perfectionist, I like to reduce the opportunity of making mistakes before I even get there, so that I don't have to fix mistakes. I like the mitigation up front, which is tragic, really. So what I like to do is, if I'm thinking about being creative and productive for a particular month, what I do is I pop down onto that white sheet of paper before I even touch my notebook. I kind of scribble out what I think it's going to look like before I even get there. Then I transfer it over into pencil, and then I transfer it over into pen in my notebook. And that kind of reduces the capacity for mistakes. But I think, we kind of circle all the way back, and I'd say mistakes is part of it. I'd say mistakes and perfectionism is part of why we often quit our notebooks or quit our journals. But I think at the end of the day, it's, the key kind of core message is those unrealistic expectations that we put on ourselves to be perfect, to look like X, Y, and Z, to create all of these beautiful spreads, to do all of these different things. I think at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to that kind of core focus.
For sure. I think it's very important, like when you try to compare, or like when you see those inspirations online, that like you should use it as an inspiration versus something to compare with. Because obviously people who post their spreads on Instagram or Pinterest, it's not the first spread they've ever made. Like a lot of these people have like artistic education, or they've been like doing artsy stuff for like 10 years, or they've been bullet journaling for a very, very long time. So it's like you cannot compare your day one to somebody's
someone,
year 10.
no,
If you feel like you want to compare your today with yours yesterday.
yeah,
But yeah, so it's very important when you see all those beautiful pages, like, yes, get inspired, try to dissect them, find the things you like and you would like to try, but don't compare, because these people has been doing it probably longer than you.
for sure. I see there's a couple of comments around watercolor. Teen Beans mentioning make sure you get at least 120 weight on the paper, just so you know, because we've been using quite a bit of bullet journaling jargon, and I think it's important to say. So Stephanie over here is going with I prefer 160 for artsy purposes. GSM means the thickness of the paper. So essentially, if you were to take an entire meter, because it's grams per square meter. So if you took a square meter of the paper, that's how much the paper is going to weigh if you put it on weight.
I have no idea. It's like,
you have no idea about this is an amazing this is amazing. So when you are looking for a notebook that holds water for you to be able to use watercolor, you want a thicker weighted paper, so higher than 120, higher than like up to 160. Now the downside of not having a watercolor specific notebook or a watercolor specific paper is what will happen if you use too much water. The water kind of degrades the paper a little bit, so it becomes it makes like these little balls where the water has degraded the paper, and that's called pilling. So it kind of just mushes up the kind of filaments that are stuck together in the water. So when you're looking for a notebook that you want to specifically use watercolor in, God, you know what, I don't know about you, but I really miss the old school scribbles that matter, like the old school scribbles that matter, the one with the really nice coated paper that you could do beautiful watercolor in. It was the best of all time notebooks. RIP old scribbles that matter. RIP. Anyway, that was really good because it had almost like a coated layer to it, which made it really soft and really easy to watercolor in without the pages breaking up too much or like kind of wobbling or warping too much. I think there are now notebooks you can get that are specifically watercolor paper for you to, if that's what you want to do as well. So there's that, just because I saw quite a bit of chat around the quality of paper and some watercoloring and what would be good. And I use watercolor a lot in my notebooks, so a lot. Naughty. And I find that even in the 160 GSM, if you use too much water, top tip of the day, don't use too much water, use as little water as possible, and then you won't get that warping and pilling that you may see if you use a bit more water. There we go. There's my watercolor tip of the day.
Well, very useful, because I wouldn't be able to say anything about watercolor. It's just not a medium I work with well.
Well, we saw your, I loved your rainbow. There was nothing wrong with your beautiful rainbow. You just didn't like your rainbow.
Thank you.
There you go. All right. So
for me, color is a no-no because of the mess. It's like, oh, I have to take out the brushes and the water, and then I have to clean it. And it's like, oh no, just use a marker.
True. Okay, so circling all the way back to why we're here. All right, what's our next topic, Masha? You're in charge of topics.
Okay, so we talked about, trying too much. I feel like we didn't talk enough about that, because there are, what I usually say is that the pages you can create in your journal are limited only by your imagination, because like there's unlimited amount of things you can create in your bullet journal. And I think a mistake a lot of people are making is that they do all of it. I know I did. My first journal lasted me for 3 months. I don't even remember how many pages I used every month, but it was at least 10 plus the weekly spreads. And I feel like there's this idea that, like, oh, if I do bullet journal, I have to use a habit tracker, a mood tracker, a gratitude log. I also have a collection for my books and collection for my movies and collection for my
Movies.
shows. And it's just like it all accumulates. And in the end, your bullet journal just becomes like one more chore you have to do every day. So I feel like it's
And it's
very
not
important.
motivating.
Yeah. So you just don't get anything out of it, and it just becomes a chore. And it never has to be that. It can never be a chore. If it's a chore, you're doing something wrong. Just start basics, I think.
You know, there's that element of the chore, but there's also that piece around kind of carving time out in your day to be able to practice or bullet journal doing, right? And that's part of that building. You're building a muscle, really. You're building that habit of doing journaling or planning out your day in advance or spending 10 minutes in the morning to get your day organized or your week organized or whatever it is. So it's kind of that balance, right, between, oh, this is such a chore. And I think if you're at that point, you need to reflect on, kind of go all the way back to the beginning again and say, okay, well, what is my why? Why am I doing this? And why is this not working for me? And then saying, okay, well, let's look at like this little bite-sized piece over here and say, I'm going to carve out, I'm dedicating to myself, I'm carving out 10 minutes a day to be able to do this or to be creative or etc., so that you aren't losing kind of the habit around that as well.
So what would you give, like what tips would you give for people to kind of create this habit? Because I think that's like the most important thing to get into habit of actually using your bullet journal. Because
Okay.
often you the pages, but like you just forget because you're not used to it.
You know what my top tip is, kind of find a hybrid between what you're currently using and what you're planning on using, because you've got your why, right? You've got your set why. Once you've got your why, you're like, okay, I'm going to be using this to organize my life, or I'm going to be using this to be a bit more creative, or I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And a little part of that is around self-care, and it's around self-maintenance, and it's around, making sure that you're productive for your own mental health as well. And, I can only really speak from experience and what I've seen, right, or observed in the community, is if you don't plan time into your day to do it, then it's not going to get done. And if you use kind of that hybrid approach, so hey, I actually use, let's say, for example, you go to work and you're using your Google Calendar, all right? And you use your Google Calendar for meetings or whatever it is that you're doing. Why not put into your Google Calendar, hey, I've blocked out 30 minutes of time here to journal, or reflect, or draw, or doodle, or whatever it is, so that you aren't losing what you're using, but you're incorporating what you're trying to use or what you're trying to do as well. Because I think, one of those other reasons we end up failing is I'm going to use this bullet journal and it's the only thing I'm going to use. And then you just stop using everything else that was working for you. And I think that's one of the big issues that we come across as well, is like, whoop, line in the sand, I'm going to use this fancy schmancy bullet journal. But you're forgetting all the stuff that actually helps you and makes you feel a little bit more in control of things. If you've got none of that, however, then just put an alarm on your phone and say, hey, every day at 8 a.m. or whatever it is, I'm going to spend 10 minutes just drawing up what's happening next week or this week. And I'm just going to review some, things that I need to do in the upcoming week as well.
For sure. I think what helped me the most is to kind of make bullet journaling a part of your like existing routine.
Yeah.
So, like you have your morning routine, you wake up, you do whatever, your skincare, you have your cup of coffee, then just like add bullet journal into it. Like when you have your cup of coffee, like open your journal and plan the day. I feel like when you start by adding it to the routines you already have, it kind
Yeah.
of helps make it easier to remember to do.
For sure. Totally agree with that, because if you're not adding it into something that makes it easy for you, you're not going to maintain it, and you're going to lose that motivation, and surprise, guess what's going to happen? You're going to quit.
For sure. T Bean had like a really good comment when she said that it takes time to figure out your priorities. And I think that's also like a very important thing for you to remember, that from the start, your bullet journal is not going to be everything you want it to be. That there is this period when you are still figuring out, you're still adjusting, you're still kind of building the system that works for you. So you kind of need a little bit of patience at the beginning to give yourself time to build something that works for you. And that's kind of an important thing, because I think often, especially nowadays, we expect like instant gratification. So it's like, oh, okay, I got a journal, I'm going to be productive right now. But it doesn't really work that way. So like ultimately at the end, you'll get amazing result and it will be an amazing help. But you have to understand that it takes some time to get to it. It's going to be worth it, but it's not going to be just like that.
No, for sure. I see Chris has a really good comment as well, where Chris has said, I now limit each month to about 6 pages so I can enjoy what I track, and that allows me to try out new ideas once in a while. And I think that's something that's really important as well, is, you know what? Test it, try it, turn it around real quick. If it doesn't work for you when you test it, that's okay. Test something else the next time. It does it. You're not beholden to one style or one idea or one process or one thing that you've seen. Test out other stuff. That's the idea, is give it a go, test it out. Don't be scared to test it out. And if you are scared, come and talk to one of us. We will happily talk you through that process. Because we could talk about this all day, I think.
Definitely.
Oh, how did I
So
unclick?
I kind of one of the questions I got before we started the live was that it's I like, what would be your tips for people who are like, I want to do it, but I'm way too busy to actually do it?
Prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. I think I always have a quote, and this is going to sound really condescending. Actually, I'm gonna caveat this because I don't feel like I'm a condescending person, but the comment is going to sound really condescending. Busy people are just people that have not been able to prioritize their time. I'm a busy person. I think you know very well that I am a very busy person, but I prioritize my time incredibly like tightly. And that's how I become productive, is because I know exactly what I need to do. So, and I say busy loosely. So I'm currently studying a master's of law. I'm a mom. I work full time. I blog as a side hustle. So I have this whole side business as well. I also do some contracting for some businesses. So I am like, time wise, my time is very limited for what I can and can't do. And that's where my bullet journal really helps me, is I know what's important to me. I know that I've got prioritized time, things that I need to do in a certain set of time, projects, project delivery, assignments for school, my son's like school appointments or whatever it is that he's doing at school. Mumming is like, that needs a whole nother calendar, just FYI. If you've got kids, like, that needs a whole separate thing. But it's all about making sure you know what your priority is, know how to prioritize, and then using that time as productively as possible. And for me, I use a combination of that prioritization and then I time block. And if it's outside of the time block, I have to find time somewhere else, and I will carve time into my calendar to find somewhere else. but I don't overlap those times during time blocking. If I've come to the end of my hour for bullet journaling, then I've come to the end of my hour for bullet journaling, because I just because of the way that my schedule is, I don't have the luxury of putting in an extra 30 minutes into my time, because it means it'll eat into something else that's really important to me too. So that's how I manage it personally. But I know some people have a little bit more, a little bit more flexibility in their calendar. And I think in that regard, again, we go back into that, add it into your daily routine, add it into something that you enjoy. If you don't want to do, analog or paper-based journaling, do it digitally. You can, voice record while you're brushing your teeth in the morning. Sure, it sounds a little garbled, but it works, and use what tools you have available to you. You don't have to specifically be, again, beholden to one type of journaling practice.
For sure. I guess my tips would probably be something a little bit less organized. So I was thinking about it in kind of an easier steps, because I don't have such a great organization and time management set as you do. Like, I'm kind of more flexible with my time, which is something I really need to work on. But something I found that helps me to plan when it's kind of like things just out of hand and I'm like, oh, I have no time for anything. First of all, is to plan during breaks. So, like, if you have an office job, you do end up having some kind of breaks. Just take 5 minutes to jot down whatever, do a pencil sketch for your weekly spread, and then next time you take a break, just take a pen and like outline the boxes. Like, bullet journaling doesn't have to take you hours. It really can be a matter of minutes. So my next tip would be to kind of go more minimalist with the pages you use and the designs you use. So if you're too busy, maybe you don't need all of those trackers and other pages. Maybe you just need like a big to-do list or like a brain dump. And maybe you just like use one highlighter to add the header for the color, and then just like write whatever your tasks you have. And I find that stationery actually really, really helps when you're like too busy or too overwhelmed. Just like add some stickers, add some washi, use because I have this like grid spacing guide stencil, such a lifesaver. Like, it cut in half the amount of time I spend on setting up a bullet journal weekly spread. For sure. Like, best purchase I've ever made.
Which one did you buy? Did you buy the one from InkbyJenG?
Yes, I did buy one by InkbyJenG.
Oh my God, that thing is a life changer.
But like, there are others, and obviously you can always do like a grid spacing guide instead of a stencil. Let me see. I think I had it in my last journal. Like, ever since I got the stencil, I never really use my grid spacing guide anymore. But I did have one. Yes. So, just a guide that tells you how many squares vertically, horizontally. So this actually saves you a ton of time.
That InkbyJenG stencil, honestly, it's a game changer. Game changer. Highly recommend for everyone. Is she still selling them though? Because the last time I checked, it looked like her store was closed down.
I think she opens it like randomly. Last time I checked, she did have it, but I think it's like she opens it sometimes and for a limited amount of time. InkbyJenG is like an Etsy store, and she sells like different types of stationery, like washi tapes and I think stickers or something.
Little stickers. And stamps. She does beautiful stamps.
Oh yeah, her stamps are amazing.
Yeah, her stamps are pretty cool. But yeah, she it's very sporadic when the store is open. But if it is open, highly recommend getting one of the bullet journal stencils. Yes, highly recommend.
Just want to say thank you for. So TBN is leaving us, and she really enjoyed the live. So thank you, and yeah, just thanks for joining us. It was fun.
And, obviously, we've got to do the obligatory, hey, if you enjoyed your time here with us today, please do not hesitate to like and subscribe because, self-preservation, we need subscribes to maintain our channels. And also we'll link some of those kind of links that we had spoken about in the chat below. A couple of links to, our blog posts where we say, kind of the stuff that we spoke about today. And hopefully this helps you if you're feeling overwhelmed or if you're feeling like you're thinking of quitting your journal. Spoiler alert, it's okay to quit and try again.
For sure. I feel like looking at my kind of like topic schedule.
Yeah.
That we kind of covered it all. So I don't know if nobody else has any questions. I guess that would be it from us, and then we can do our outro.
Our outro. Do we have an outro? Do you have an outro?
I just basically say where to find me. To basically.
I can find you. You're on my screen right now. All right, let's outro it. You go first.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for joining us today. It's been really fun. I always like talking about everything bullet journaling, so it's been an amazing conversation. So thank you, Nicola, and everyone who left like your comments and everything. It's been fun. So to find me, you can obviously go to mashaplans.com, which is the address for my blog. But you can always also find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Facebook. All of it is just like Masha Plans. It's Masha without R. Just saying because the more common name is Marsha, but mine, no R there. Yeah, so I have tons of free printables. I have several free classes for bullet journaling, for doodling, and just a lot of good stuff. And as Nicola said, I'll link everything in the description. But yeah, that's where you can find me. What about you?
You can find me on My Inner Creative. Again, same thing. I'm everywhere on My Inner Creative. I'll pop the links below as well. So My Inner Creative, the blog, Pinterest, YouTube, all of the places. I hang out mainly on Instagram. So if you want to come laugh at some of my really sad reels on Instagram, that would be really helpful. And yeah, it would be great to hear your thoughts on if this helped you or if this is something that you can use going forward when you're feeling a little overwhelmed. But yeah, all the links in the comments below, and we will look forward to seeing you in the future again.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you guys. It's been fun. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.